Another one.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got something a little bit less extreme to what we've been showing recently. Essentially it's a TD5 Defender and it's come in for a stage 1 remap. Right, so essentially what we have here is a 10p Defender, an early generation TD5, and it's completely stock. So the customer actually initially booked this one in because he felt that the vehicle was down on power, wanted us to check its health, and just generally give him our opinion. And now the customer's owned this one for 10 years, has done very little with it since owning it, a little bit of service work, a little bit of suspension work, etc. But nothing really on the modification side of things. So as like many of you guys, has seen the YouTube channel and thought, do you know what, we'll give him a go. So booked the vehicle in. And so far today has gone like this. The vehicle has come in for a health check, so that's consisted of plugging in with Diagnostics, popping the bonnet, having a general look around the vehicle, looking for just generally things that are not right. Everything kind of looked okay on the diagnostic side of things, so went on to a road test. The vehicle started okay, but felt sort of underpowered. The customer says it's quite easy to stall, but looking at the vehicle, one of the modifications, we did just say there's none, there is one, and that is these very tall tyres. So, yes, so 255, 85, 16, so that has increased. I think we worked out that has increased the diameter, the radius of the wheel by, I think it was 11%. So not my maths, forgive me if that's wrong, but yeah, so and that you could feel that on the road. So given that the vehicle felt a bit down on power, we and the customer was suggesting that if the vehicle checks out okay, go with the map. We thought, well, we'll dyno the vehicle just to make sure, because I've driven a lot of these vehicles and I can quite easily guess if a vehicle is under power, but throw a larger set of tyres on there and sometimes you can just like not quite grasp where the power is exactly. So we used the dyno to record the results. So what it actually made was 119.9 horsepower and 287 newton meters, so not bad really. The curves themselves, the power curves themselves, are not too bad. So that, you know, with all that in mind, the turbo's boosting nicely. We've decided to go on with the stage 1. Now, one thing I didn't say, actually looking at it, before we did commit to the dyno, there were some things that I did check on the bay as well. So with it feeling slightly underpowered, take the intake pipe off, check the air filter for debris, example blockage perhaps, and also check the condition of the turbo. Now the blades look okay. It's always difficult to a degree for some people to decide whether there's a bit of play on a turbo or not, but I think that turbo seemed pretty good. The vehicle's done 119,000 miles, so I'm not doing too bad at, you know, given that. It could well be, well, it probably most likely is to be the original turbo. So yeah, so chat with the customer, intends on doing a bit of towing with the vehicle. But you know, a stage 1 essentially that will suit towing. Right, onto the mapping side of things now. And being an early TD5, this one has an MSB ECU. So what that means for those that aren't aware, the MSB ECU, it's not reflashable. It's not possible to reflash the standard chip in there. So what we need to do, remove the ECU from the vehicle, and then remove the the memory chip from the ECU, solder in a socket that we can put a reflashable chip inside of. So maybe just show you what that actually is right now. So that ECU that we was just referencing then, this is a little socket without the chip in there at the moment. And that just allows us to remap the vehicle. As the standard chip, it's not possible to reflash it. So perhaps a little interesting fact here for some of you viewers. If you look at the height of the fan and where the intercooler radiators are on the vehicle, I had a question. How does this cool this? Well, I've actually got some adjustment on the cooling to direct and duct the cooling where we need it to actually go. Obviously all different types of vehicles come in the shop at Alive, and it just gives us that flexibility to run and direct cooling where we need it to be. It's always worth just showing what we've got actually in the workshop as well during these vlogs. So a rather interesting one sat at the top there. More on that one later, I think. It's a familiar looking 90 here. There will be another video on this one soon. You may have seen this one over the Christmas period. Some more upgrades and some updates for the vlog on this one. And the Freelander, you would have been introduced to that, I think, on the last vlog or one of the latest vlogs. At the other end of the workshop, got my car with, yep, that is a real carbon fibre roof. So right, back to the main focus of this video. So we've actually just finished off with the mapping now, and we've actually got some really good results for what is essentially a stage 1. Albeit with being an early version, no cap model, came from Land Rover with no cap, so it's actually a D cap, and running 1.3 bar boost, which is sort of stock for a stage 1. We've move that out of the way. Oops. We've got some good numbers out of this one: 175 horsepower and 398 newton meters of torque. So good curves. I mean, there's a little wiggle here, but we do see this quite often with the 10Ps, and it is nice to almost kiss the 400 newtons mark. So quite happy with that. And yeah, to say this one felt down from when it came in to where it is now, I think that's a good result all round. So what I'm going to do just here as well, whilst we are talking power figures, I'm just going to import in the background there minus drag and wheel power. So we're just looking at power and torque, horsepower and torque there. So difference between the two. So what you're looking at is the stock horsepower is here, where the vehicle achieved, I think it was 119.8 or 0.9 horsepower, and it's now up to 175. So gains throughout. We're not losing anything anywhere at the expense of being able to gain something, so that's always a bonus. Not usually the case with this style of tuning, and again, torque right from the word go, we've got a good improvement. And when you're approaching, so when you're around the sort of 1800 RPM, you're real strong on the torque, thick end of 300s, and then just kissing 400 newtons there. Now, what we try to do with our remaps is hold the torque for about 1000 RPM. With these 10p engines, we find it's much more difficult to achieve that. They are different in many respects. Same but different. We will probably go into that later in another video, but that's the whole data. So drag, power at the wheels overlaid, as well as brake horsepower and the torque as well. Right, once again, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and also don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully this video has been a little bit different to some of the content we've been putting out, a bit less extreme, perhaps a bit more relatable to yourselves, something that's just essentially a remap and a health check, and obviously a run power test on the dyno as well. Hopefully that's more relatable to some as well. The last thing we want to be doing is providing content that's for that's not for everyone. So hence why we are covering things like this, things like our Freelander, which we've recently introduced on the channel, also my own race car, and like I say, some of the vehicles that are tuned to a very high level. Not to forget that we will soon be featuring a video on our own 300 brake horsepower TD5.